A couple of days ago, I invited my friend Valdi round for a tarot session. Valdi defines himself as a skeptic. He's not a mean skeptic. He just likes to think that there's a rational explanation for things. Well, we did quite a long tarot session, and this video has turned out quite long. I thought of cutting it down to a more manageable size, but then I thought, no, this is a really interesting conversation. I particularly like the bit at the end where I give Valdi the tarot cards and ask him to read for me. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it.
Contrary to what I'm wearing, I actually know next to nothing about rugby.
And on the show this week, we have Valdi.
Hello, hi.
And Valdi is, I guess, what you might call a skeptic.
I imagine, a skeptic in the sense that I've never done a tarot reading. A tarot reading has never been done for me either.
Right, okay.
And I personally am not really a big believer in tarot, but I do realize there could be things I don't know. So let's see, I would say. Let's see today.
Okay, so the right sort of skeptic.
I can only be the skeptic that I am. For many, many years, I used to be somebody who deeply hated all forms of religion, all forms of things that are not materialistic. Non-materialistic things seemed either completely laughable or completely silly to me. Mm-hmm. And then, because of some experiences that I had later on in life, I realized there are things that I've never experienced before, that I don't fully grasp, and there could exist things and phenomena that I have no idea about. There are things we do know, there are things we don't know, but we know that we don't know, and there are still things that we don't even know
that we don't know.
Exactly.
I thought that what I would do is read some cards for you in the way that I normally do.
Yes.
And you can just tell me whether you find it's interesting, and I have a really funny idea after that.
Good. I have no idea how this works.
Okay.
So I'm very curious. I'm somewhat shy, I imagine, because what's gonna happen? Will the future be shown to me?
Yeah.
Will you see through me?
Yeah.
Will you know me through and through?
That is the thing, isn't it? That's the question. Well, I was thinking about that before you arrived, and I thought, well, we won't do anything that has the possibility of becoming incredibly personal and kind of like.
Okay. It's fine. As long as this doesn't turn into Pornhub, it's all fair game.
Well, there are some spreads, for example, which say, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? So I thought, well, we won't do that, because then I'd be sitting here telling everyone on the internet what Valdi's weaknesses are, and that's not really.
Would I have to agree or disagree?
No, you won't have to.
Yeah,
you can disagree.
Well, then there is some privacy left to me.
Sure. Your privacy is that it might not be true, what I'm saying. You sometimes, I think, do kind of predict the future, but it's not really the centre of the experience.
Oh, okay. So I had a rather wrong impression of what tarot is, right? Because when you see it in films, it's something like a gypsy fortune teller trying to tell you what's gonna happen if you marry this girl or that girl, and then whether you will win a fortune, something like that.
I mean,
I think that's how people see it, really.
That is how it has been, and that's how it was during the 19th century, probably till about 1960, and now it's being updated in the light of, for example, Jungian psychology.
Oh yeah.
So it's being updated and updated and updated, and every decade that passes, people's attitude to tarot becomes different. And there's still.
How do you say it correctly? Do you say tarot?
I say tarot
tarot
with a silent T.
Why is it with a silent T?
Because I'm English, and the English like to say things
in a pseudo French way.
In a pseudo French way, because it makes us feel like we have more value in the world.
But
that we can walk into a party in Paris and be accepted.
Okay, so
because the English have a terrible inferiority complex as regards
towards the French,
because the French invaded us in 1066 and we've never got over it.
So it's like daddy issues, basically.
Worse than daddy issues. It's master servant issues. So I take a deep breath and I put my feet on the floor and I kind of meditate a little bit. I ask for a general reading for Valdi now. Okay. So I'm going to shuffle.
Am I allowed to ask questions?
Oh yeah, very much so. As in, the more interactive, the better, because the people who are silent and mysterious, they freak one out.
Who did you ask, like, in your meditative state? Because you said, I asked for a general reading.
Yeah.
So this seemed to me like talking to somebody.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean,
is it your
sure.
higher consciousness?
Sure.
Is it
Exactly.
okay?
Higher consciousness, and I mean, obviously, everybody has their own philosophical universe, and this isn't something that I would stand up and defend in a court of law. But I think, for example, it's psychologically helpful for me to believe that I connect with a higher consciousness. And because it's a higher consciousness, I imagine it above my head. Okay?
This part makes sense.
Because we are somatic animals.
You said I put my feet on the ground.
Oh yeah. I want to be grounded on earth. I want to be connected with reality. I don't want to tell you airy-fairy nonsense.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about things that are of interest to you in your real life. So my feet on the ground symbolizes exactly what it says. Staying real.
Being grounded in
staying
reality.
real, not getting too hysterical or imaginative. So it's a balance between...
But then you do want to be imaginative in a way, right?
It's a balance between what my imagination might tell me and what my sense of realness might tell me.
Would you say it's the opposite of a trance?
I don't know. I'm not very
Because
much...
you are not being carried away with what you experience,
I'm
right?
not being carried away. I think I'm allowing myself to become less strictly logical.
So it's a bit like having a beer before a date, but not quite a bottle of vodka, right? So you are a bit relaxed, but you are not really wasted.
I'm drinking tea.
I'm drinking water, obviously.
Okay. Valdi now. So you actually have some involvement in this. There's 3 piles.
It's like in a film.
Yeah, it is a bit. So which pile would you choose? Devil, okay.
Is it?
It is the devil, yeah.
I imagine I have to deprive myself of overthinking as well, right? In this very moment.
Well, it's kind of me that has to deprive myself of overthinking because I've got the responsibility of reading the cards.
Yes.
Okay, so I will speak as things come into my consciousness. You've got some sort of new influence, surprising new influence is going to come into is coming into your home life. Generally, we have the devil as your main card. So
it's kind of spooky, actually.
It is kind of spooky, and it's a card of dealing with your drives, really, and dealing with your instinctive side. And one of the themes of the tarot is how we deal with being human. You know, how we deal with being sort of half
Angels,
beastly and half
beasts.
angel. That's right. And so the drives are our desires and our lusts, and they can make us into better people or worse people.
Yes.
And so it may be that the theme of this part of your life, which I usually say is like this sort of 3-month chunk of life, might be about dealing with drives on some level or unconscious forces coming up, which is quite interesting because here you are and I'm reading your tarot cards, and so the theme of the day is unconscious forces. So
yes.
That's quite nice. I like that.
Should I give you feedback right away?
Oh, I love it.
You...
I love feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do see how this could influence you in a way, but I imagine it has to be interactive, doesn't it?
It can. It doesn't have to be, but it's nice.
It can.
I can be. Yeah.
Okay. The funny thing is, before coming here, I had been thinking about, for example, controlling some of my, lusts is quite a big word, but I would say controlling my myself better. For example, one part of this would be eating less, because I used to go to the gym every day last year, and then Corona happened and all the gyms closed, so I got really fat, and I'm not happy about that. It's one of the things. The other ones are more personal, I would say.
Okay. Well, with Devil, the interesting thing about the card is that you've got these 2 people who are chained up, right? But the traditional thing shows that the chains are very loosely around the neck. So they are in a position to just lift the chains off the neck if they wanted to. So it's kind of like this
they choose to be
paradox of choosing to be an addiction which you think you can't get out of. So it's this paradox of free will and,
Yes.
and human beings being addictive creatures. Yeah, you always have choice, but it doesn't always feel like it. But what is quite interesting is that I see financially there's something that there's a really good card for you, and it feels like a feeling of reaching something. And I might actually put two more cards down to. So I'm going to put 2 here. I'm interested.
I was always forbidden at home to play with cards. I think because my grandfather he is Catholic, but not all Catholics have a aversion to cards. I imagine him, from what I know, he was an alcoholic when he was very young, and games of chance are one way of losing money, really, if you are an alcoholic.
Sure.
So we were always strictly forbidden to play cards at home because he said it would lead us into ruin.
Oh. Well, but this,
I'm not playing.
But
with
this
them.
is not gambling, is it?
Gambling was the word I
Gambling.
was looking for.
Okay. But anyway, what I want to say is that I'm interested in this card because it's a very fortunate card, the world. Valdi's got the world in the second house. The second house is the house of finance and money. So there's something rather good about that, and I want to know why you've got that. You've got strength and the Pope. That's really interesting. It feels like you've achieved something. You've got to a certain place, and you have kind of like become strong in some way, and it feels like you've become an authority in something, and that feels like it's going to be good financially. So whether that is something you're doing with your career or your work or your podcast or something like that. So that's a good sign, Valdi, I would say.
Well, I will ask more specific questions about this
sure.
kind of thing when we get to the specific question, because there is one particular thing that I would like to ask.
Okay. But just
it's very exciting, I have to say.
It's very exciting, isn't it?
So whenever you want more clarity on something, you draw 2 additional cards?
I do. I mean, tarot is very much something that there aren't really any rules. There's no rule book. The whole thing is lost in time. You know, you read books and you learn from established teachers, but then you kind of adapt it because all the teachers say different things.
Okay.
Basically. So there are certain things I do, like at the beginning of this reading, you had 7 reversed cards out of 12. I reversed the whole reading. Because for me, if you have a majority of negatives, it becomes a positive. That's just that's a tarot thing that you can do. Some people do it. Aren't really rules. You're in a slightly surreal, rather illogical place, and you're piecing something together, and in the process of piecing it together, hopefully you become aware of things.
Okay.
4 of coins, communication. So yeah, you're really quite established in your lines of communication at the moment, I would say. This is a very solid...
What do you mean?
Well, I'm now thinking about the way you interface, the way you communicate, the way you put out your words into the world. Yes. And I think you have... I know, again, I'm using now what I know about you, that you have channels that you go through. You have blogs, you have a podcast. What I'm seeing is that in this house, which is the 3rd house, which just, among other things, rules communications.
Yes.
I'm seeing a sort of a solid structure. In fact, it's so solid it might almost be too solid, and it might need to be shaken up in some way, but that can come later.
Okay.
That's your home life, such as it is, and the Fool's a very interesting card because it always means an unexpected influence that comes in. It sounds like
from somebody else.
Yes, or something else. Something might happen. I mean, we're in lockdown. Maybe a cat will come and live with you or something.
I hope not, because I'm not a cat person. I mean, they are nice, but they would basically eat you. If you just died, they wouldn't care.
If you die, they eat you. They eat your eyeballs.
Yeah, that's what my grandfather always said. I'm slightly disappointed by the lack of rules, I have to say. But maybe just because I expected it more to be a very strict game, or very mathematical in a way, or like there is one book that tells you the basic moves of the card, but then now I see why you would more compare it to something like psychotherapy, where it's rather an interactive experience with stimuli that can suggest things to you, and they there is some activation on your part, there is some activation on my part, in your brain, in my brain. It's more like an interactive game.
That's what it is for me. I mean, I think it has different meanings for a lot of people, and because tarot is sort of the origins of tarot are sort of like rather lost in the midst of time. I mean, there are books
late Middle Ages, right? Although it's ascribed to Egyptians, isn't it?
Well, no, that seems to be a false.
Yeah, but this is just not true.
Not true. Yeah. Late Middle Ages, first tarot packs, but no one really knows when people started using them for fortune telling, because at first they were used for gambling. Tarot cards, and then it's probably in the 18th century that the fortune telling thing began to creep in, and then in the 18th and 19th century people started to write books about, this is a fortune telling thing, and so actually it's 18th and 19th century that it all comes together.
So late.
It's quite late.
I imagine it to have been way earlier.
Well, the cards are older.
Yeah,
but it seems
I know.
The fortune-telling systems seem to be they were kind of solidified quite late. They were actually written down quite late.
Okay.
So it's very unclear what happened. And then again, then you have Jung. He gave a lecture called Synchronicity in 1922, I think, which changed the way people talk about oracles, I Ching, tarot, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It changed the way people think about this kind of psychic work, that maybe it's an interesting part of our psychology. Very, very influential. And so from 50s to 60s, then tarot became a popular thing. Mm-hmm. So in 1960s, it became popular with the hippies, 1970s, 80s, and then to now, it's been steadily becoming more into the culture. But I think the reason why it's even vaguely respectable is Jung.
I imagine, because then, thanks to this romance that psychology has with fortune telling, you can explain it as not a scientific method, but as a sort of psychoanalysis.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Shall we go on?
Yes, let's go on. Okay, so that's your home life. In the Knave of Battens...
I don't like this card very much, I have to say.
Well, it's maybe, but I'm afraid to say the Knave of Battens might be rather interesting to you. It depends what you like in life.
I have been looking at it a lot, and it seems a bit vicious.
He's in a rather body-hugging jumpsuit in this deck, isn't he?
Gay Spider-Man. Although Spider-Man is kind of gay per se.
Not always. But anyway, Valdi, this is in the 5th house where sex does occur. And not just sex, but also fun and creativity. And
What's that?
What's that? So it feels like someone fun is going to be there for you. And
how long? When? Where?
It could be right now, or it could be in the next 2 or 3 months. I would tell you to look out for the Knave of Battens. A younger person who...
Jesus, an idiot.
Yes.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, it could be a clever younger person.
No.
Not all young people are silly.
Yes.
I mean, you're quite clever and you're quite young.
Am I young now? Oh, to be young once again.
Younger than me. That's easy, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Knave of Battens, he's actually blowing fire from his mouth.
Yes.
He's probably quite an interesting person to talk to, and not just an intellectual person, but a creative person.
But why is there a medical element to him? Because
medical?
Yes, there is in Polish, I'm from Poland, it's Asclepios.
Caduceus. It's a Caduceus. Well, this sign, this Asclepius, is not always on the Knave of Battens. So we've chosen to use this deck, and so it's come up for you now. So look out for medical students.
Oh, okay. My best friend is a doctor, but...
Oh, right. Do you think there's any possibility of
no
with your best friend?
No.
Okay. Well,
you don't do it to your... No.
No, you try not to, don't you?
Jesus.
Okay. What's your best friend called?
Pavel. Like Pablo or...
Okay, so what can I ask what sign of the zodiac he is? Don't be cross with me.
He would say he's a Tyrannosaurus Rex because
he doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it. Okay. He was born on the 31st of July.
So he's a Leo, right? So, okay. Well, it could be non-sexual fun. It could be that.
I wish. I wish I could cross the border to go to Poland.
Yeah.
I can't really.
Okay. So Pavel's in Poland and you're here.
Hi, Pavel.
Okay. So he's a Leo.
Yes.
Then that's probably him. Breathing fire, a fire sign. So it's not a sexual thing, but it might be a creative thing or a fun
He's one of
thing.
the smartest people I know.
Yeah. Do you have a job at the moment?
I'm looking for one.
That's
Well, I
fine.
work for a newspaper,
Yeah,
but that's in
okay.
Poland.
This Four of Cups in the sixth position, I read it as to do with your employment. You're restive and you want something more. And the interesting thing about this card is that the guy, he's very focused on the cups that are empty and lying on the table. And actually there's a fourth cup which is being sort of presented.
So because of the sadness of things past,
Yeah.
he cannot see the opportunity that, well, is in front of him, really.
Exactly. Well, it's sort of
You have to free yourself from the past to be truly free.
exactly
Okay.
in order to perceive the opportunity that is waiting for you there. You have to like look in that direction. So you have to stop.
Basically, move your eyeballs just a
Yes, move your eyeballs a bit. Stop focusing on the disappointments of the past,
Okay.
and then you will be able to see that God, if you like, is just like giving you something, an opportunity.
Yes.
on that
No,
day.
well, with this I could very well agree. There are things in the past that I unnecessarily focus on.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, this might very true be for all human beings,
Yeah, it might.
I guess.
It might. This is actually the Three of Battens, even though it's heavily disguised in this deck. Valdi's got this very interesting Sheridan Douglas Three of Battens, and I guess we see the three battens are like the three masts of the ship. It's reversed and it's in the relationship position. It feels like there's some feeling of stillness, of things not really moving in that house at the moment.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, Corona.
Yeah, exactly. So the feeling of waiting for your ship to come in, like those in the old days, it's an expression in English, my ship has come in, the results have come back on the water. Well, let me have a look at the top half of your spread. 10 of Swords reversed here.
It's a dead person.
It's a dead person, yeah.
It's a fucking corpse.
It's a low point, and it feels like I think you're becoming more optimistic.
Generally, or
Yeah,
okay.
generally, because this is the ninth house, and it's the house of your philosophy.
What I know as houses are divisions of the sky,
Yeah.
but is it the same? Is it
It's this is taken from astrology. This
okay?
this grid.
That's where I've heard it.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So in this ninth house, we say that one of the things the ninth house deals is with your worldview, your belief system, your philosophy.
Yes.
And what I'm getting a reversed Ten of Swords. Here we have a Ten of Swords. Valdi has reversed, so that's negative. And so what I'm getting is that there is a kind of a cycle there between optimism and pessimism, and it seems that you became more pessimistic. And
When?
it seems that you're on the turn now.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay, it seems that you've been through a pessimistic phase, and now there's signs of an upturn. There's signs of optimism.
Yes.
I'm getting from that.
It started when I ordered a soup today
A soup.
at a restaurant. Yes. So
Wow,
I felt like something changed in the air.
a major change.
Yes.
Oh gosh, good,
It was very absurd, but
good,
yeah,
good.
I
Okay.
imagine. Do you know The Holy Mountain? But there is a film by Jodorowsky.
Who liked the tarot? I have to say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, and I feel a bit like in the film, it's a very symbolic experience.
Yeah.
Some things are eerily, is that how we say it?
Eerily, yeah.
Eerily personal. They feel like that.
Yeah.
It's very hard to tell what is you and what is me. I feel like we go through this together.
Yeah.
It's a pleasant, but also if you want to stay, skeptical of it or critical of it,
Yeah.
it's a somewhat deceitful experience in that in that you lose yourself a bit. So maybe that's a good thing. I don't know if I stayed out of the thing and say no, and if I said just no to anything, to everything, then it would make little sense, I experience.
I think that's a very fair comment, and I like the way you're receiving this. Yes, you do lose yourself in this kind of experience, which is also why one keeps one's feet on the ground during a tarot session.
Yes.
And if you look at online tarot pages on Facebook, or you look at what people are saying on Instagram, you sometimes get the feeling that people have really completely lost themselves into this sort of like nebulous, cloudy region of symbols and maybes and possibilities.
Yes.
Then I would feel it becomes less and less interesting. Maybe there's some positive stuff to be got from losing yourself a little bit.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's negative.
Yeah.
I think it's a rather pleasant experience.
Yes.
But then also because I know you, I think I would be feeling more at the ready. I don't know. I would be, if I didn't know you.
Yes.
This would be more of a strange experience.
Would you be more on your guard?
On my guard, yes.
Okay.
No, I mean generally, what would be the point of trying to go to a tarot reading if you despised it from the very start?
Exactly. Well, you could. I mean, you could do it if you were one of these militant atheists and you wanted to stamp.
I used to be one, yes.
Yeah, really.
Yes.
And if you wanted
You
to...
didn't know me back then,
No,
but
I
I
didn't know you back
was a bit annoying.
But if you wanted to stamp tarot out, you could come across town and try and stamp it out. But then what would happen would be that I wouldn't put it on my YouTube channel. You could sit there for 40 minutes and say, that was bullshit.
Yeah, no, like what I do enjoy, I have to say, still, programs, films that show that some of the esoteric stuff can be used for exploiting people.
Well, it is a funny business, and you know, I sometimes do live readings on Facebook, and I go onto a tarot page and I say, I'm here, I'm doing it for free. It's like practice. And it's very weird because people from all over the world tune in.
I'm not saying that I mind the money. It's fine if somebody who does the reading charges money, but it should be in a situation for somebody, for the other person, where the other person can, of their free accord, of their free mind, decide to do this without a very... like lots of emotional pain. Imagine your mother just died, and then there is somebody who can tell you, the universe will make an exception for you. I will talk to her. And then,
absolutely,
especially if it's somebody who doesn't care one bit for you, they will use you for money.
It's a very grey area. I agree. And what I wanted to say about Facebook is that when I go on Facebook, I'm basically available to the whole world.
Yes, well, sure.
Anybody, and you do get quite a lot of people who are in pain.
No, but this is something different. You open yourself up to the whole world, and then people who seek help can come to you. Yeah. Something completely different is somebody who probably is a professional con artist and then goes after people whose close ones, loved ones have just died, and oh look, I've seen that your mother has passed away, let me talk to her.
So do people do that?
Yes, obviously.
Do you think?
Yes.
Don't you think they just sit there and wait for people to come to them?
Both forms of fortune telling exist.
Do you think they just like chase the ambulance? Really?
They go through trash. They go through the things you... Yes, obviously. Okay. There exist people who are out there who don't really care about the tarot.
So there are bad people.
Yes, that I think it's very fair to distinguish these two sorts.
Okay. This is the 11th house of friendships and so forth.
This would interest me a lot.
Yeah.
Because I have been missing my friends quite a lot.
There's a kind of like, it's not very comfortable, this card. It's reversed temperance. And it feels like friends give you feedback, and they, for example, you can qualify your ideas and your feelings through friends.
Yes.
And this is what happens in the temperance card. It's the mixing of two liquids. It's the balance that you get between two people. And that's what you would hope to get in the friendship house. But it's reversed. It's missing at the moment, I think. So that feedback that you would normally get from friends seems to be slightly missing.
This is the first card I can in no way relate to.
Yeah.
So I don't understand, like, I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
but it makes no sense to me.
Okay.
Because, my best friend always would give me feedback.
Yeah.
All my best friends from Poland,
Yeah.
we have a WhatsApp chat group,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk to each other in spite of Corona, and we would just tell to each other, you are being a fucking idiot.
Okay.
So this is the first card I can't relate to.
Okay, so 1 out of 10 so far.
That's
1 out of 11.
sorry, being honest.
That's
It
fine.
makes no sense to me.
That's fine.
I wouldn't want to have friends who would just applaud me, whatever I did.
I wasn't thinking that you had friends who weren't giving you feedback. What I thought was happening was that there was less contact with friends.
That's in a way true, but
but that's true of everyone at the moment.
Probably.
Okay.
One but last?
The last, in fact.
Is it?
We started with this one, yes. Queen of Swords.
Downwards, upwards.
Reversed. It fears and limitations. It sounds like there is some sort of conflict with a woman, or the possibility of a conflict with a woman who's rather severe and may even be rather vengeful, the Queen of Swords. She's can be a bit judgmental. And as she's reversed, I see that as a possible conflict.
I remember what I sort of a bit told you about before. Like about my online provocation.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I did make fun of a woman. It didn't matter particularly that it was a woman and not a man.
Yeah.
Were she a man, I would have made fun of her as well. But yeah, and she seems like a bit of a bitch.
Right.
So, but then so am I.
So you deserve each other.
I could imagine that she didn't like very much being made fun of, but then I imagine nobody does. So, I would say it was justified. But then everybody in this situation would. This is a card I can relate to, yes. Okay. I agree.
Okay. All right then. Well, what we could say is that that's the first spread.
It seems like something tasty, actually. Something you can spread on your bread.
Yeah. So this is your first spread. And
I liked it.
I would could. Hesitate to ask you this, but Valdi, how was it for you?
I have to say it was a more pleasant experience than I imagined. Especially in the first part, I was in a sort of trance, like really light one. I can't say I can tell now whether you can tell the future, for example, thanks to tarot, but I think that it lets you submerge yourself into a state of mind in which you contemplate yourself in a deeper way.
Yes.
So it's a bit like prayer, I would say.
Yes.
It's a bit like prayer, but slightly more egoistic in a way, because you don't actually pray to a god. You pray to your higher consciousness, right? So it's like letting you experience yourself more in the way that you are, and the prayer would let you experience the world in the state that it should be. Yeah. So it's a bit like a prayer. It's also a bit different. Yeah. It was a pleasant experience, but I think a big part of it is because it was with you and not somebody I wouldn't know. I was completely unconvinced by only one thing you said, and this was the card I pointed to. This one card made no sense to me whatsoever. In other cards I could find, if not supernatural, then at least some sensible wisdom. I don't know how better to put it. I liked it.
Good.
I would do it again.
Good. I did have an idea for the end of the session, which is that, would you like to try it yourself?
Yes.
You would?
I'm a bit shy again.
That's fantastic. Well, that's great response. Well, Valdi, okay, what I suggest is that we do the very, very simple reading, which is that like a past, present, and future, right?
Okay.
So would you like to try just putting down 3 cards, past, present, and future, and just see if anything comes to you?
Yes.
'Cause it might be interesting.
Should I mix them up?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yes. So I draw 3 different cards. One represents the past, one the now, and
then you
the third one
you look at
was
the cards
come.
and you see if you can put it together into a kind of narrative, and if in saying that we see if I resonate with it. Okay, but the question is it general or is it specific? So I think
I'm more for specific.
Okay, could you tell me then about my career as a writer?
Your career as a writer. But this is not a precise enough question.
Okay. So could you tell me anything about the novel that I wrote in German? Okay, like for example, is there anything I need to do in order to maximize the success of that project?
Yes. So this is the past. This is the present.
Yeah.
And the last one is the future.
Okay.
So your question was, is there anything I can do to maximize the chances of your literary project being successful?
My German novel.
Your German novel. Well, I would say that in the past, you were your worst enemy. These are the 2 snakes, which represent 2 natures of a human being that are separate and yet the same in essence, and yet in essence divided. These are the 2 snakes. So you let your insecurities be dangerous for your project, to endanger your project completely, because you doubted yourself whether you were good enough, whether you even should try. Aren't there enough books being written anyway? Why would you ever even start writing a book? But then only through the strength of your will, which is the stick in the middle, can these 2 snakes both be separate and then both work for you, really, because you need doubt, but you also need optimism.
Okay.
This is your past. This is the present. Does it have a name?
It's the 8 of Cups.
The 8 of Cups. So I think the cups are what you've left behind. Mm-hmm. So you have thought and won over your insecurities. Mm-hmm. So you understand that these temptations are in the past. You are right now on the best way to realize your dreams. Your dreams are like stars in the sky, pure objects, shiny objects, perfection that you can look up to, with the slightly dark element of the moon. Luna represents lunatics and crazy people. So there is madness to be found in your dreams. You have to be careful. It brings you nothing to ponder upon your dreams forever without ever really going in that direction. This would be too many projects, maybe. That could be a danger. There are 2 stars, actually 3, so they come and come and come, and you can actually never count the stars in the sky. Otherwise you would be like a prophet from the Old Testament to whom ending sea of children was promised. You have to choose a son. So I enjoy. I'm in it, but then not to maybe fall into the trap of believing too easily for myself. Yeah. I mean, in the past still is unknown. The biggest dangers still lie in the future, and these are sadly unknown to us in the now. They are unknown, like unknown are these faces in the darkness, but these are the biggest enemies, and some of them will also come from behind. So they will be a surprise. What you will have is, first of all, yourself to defend your project and your own person, and you will have to use your head, being clever basically, because your weapon, the one that you have, is quite tiny compared to the daggers that come out of the darkness. But if you use your head, then you will come out okay.
Okay. Thank you. Wow. You were really good, Val.
I really got into it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I liked it a lot.
I liked it too. I think we can say goodbye to my 100 fans.
And soon to be more, I hope.
Soon to be more. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.